In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Karon Thackston about how to write better copy for your product pages. This is the Business of E-commerce, episode 83. Today's episode is sponsored by Drip. Drip is the world's first e-commerce CRM and a tool that I personally use for email marketing and automation. Now, if you're running an e-commerce store, you need to give Drip a try, and here's why. Drip offers one-click integrations for both Shopify and Magento. There's robust segmentation, personalization, and revenue dashboards to give you an overview of how your automation emails are performing. One of my favorite features of Drip is the Visual Workflow Builder. It gives you a super easy way to build out your automation rules visually and see the entire process. It lets you get started quickly, but also build very complex automation rules. It's powerful, but also easy to learn, unlike a lot of email tools that offer the same type of automation. To get a demo of Drip today, you can go head over to drip.com/BOE. That's drip.com/BOE. Now, onto the show. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow the e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Plesky, and I'm here today with Karon Thackston. Karon is the president of Marketing Words, a copywriting agency that delivers training to help entrepreneurs communicate, convince, and convert leads into loyal customers. I asked Karon on the show today to talk about how you can use copywriting to improve your product pages. So hey Karon, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, Karon is in a log home, which I think is super cool. So some people only have the audio, but if you're watching the video, you should check that out. So cool. So wanted to kind of chat about copywriting and product pages. I feel like this is an often overlooked subject and one of those things that can have a very big long-term benefit.
I agree.
Yeah. So first, someone wants to get started. They have some product pages right now. They just, they kind of did whatever for the copy. I think that's usually people kind of take that first crack at it. Let's say they're drop shipping. Usually they pull those, terrible descriptions from the manufacturers and put them on there.
Yeah, the canned copy.
The canned copy that, it's a red widget. And you're like, okay, it's, unless you're really looking for a red widget, it's not really convincing.
There's a reason they give that to you for free.
Yes. That's a good way of saying that. That's a reason why it's free. Or even some folks that, are doing private label or something like that. They write their own copy, but it's almost like, you need it to fill in the blank text hole. So you kind of write whatever you need to get it there. And you're like, I know it's 500 words. You get them in there and you're like, cool, save. Let's not look at that ever again. But that's probably not the right thing to do, I'm guessing.
No. No, not in my opinion anyway.
So what is your opinion on the right thing to do there?
I would skip the canned copy. I mean, if that's the only thing that's available to you, you don't have the means to outsource it, you have not yet trained yourself to write copy for your products that are on your site, then that's better than leaving all of that space blank. However, because everybody from that particular manufacturer is using the same canned copy, it's going to make it even more difficult for you to rank. And as people are shopping and clicking from site to site to site, which they will do, they're looking for, free shipping here or a better price there and things of that nature. They're reading the exact same description over and over again. If there isn't a way to determine quickly which site they should purchase from, they almost always default to the site that has the lowest price, including shipping. So if there's a site that's a couple of dollars higher than your listed price, but they have free shipping and yours is charging shipping, it's a balance there. You can use bits and pieces of the canned copy if you know what to look for and what to pick out and things of that nature, and then add some creativeness to it, add something unique about your particular site. But it all comes down to balance. It has to be copy that's written for the shopper and also copy that's going to entertain Google, keep it around, make it want to rank those pages. if you have the exact same copy that every other site that's selling those products have, you kind of messed yourself over there a little bit, I think. So it's all about balance, finding something unique for the shopper, something unique that your site can offer that you can include in the copy, and then also copy that's going to be original and that ranks well with Google.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things when you're looking through different sites, you just know, right? They all have the canned copy. And at that point, if there is one that doesn't, it makes them look so much more legitimate. If you're selecting maybe 5 sites that just have that canned copy, that canned photo, you think, it's pretty much like you kind of know what's happening. Nothing stands out, right? But if you have one that really goes in and describes, in detail, has like specs, like actual sizes, weights, just deep information, that one, it just becomes a different like tear, and all of a sudden it becomes so much more believable that, hey, you actually know what this product is, and you're not just throwing up a bunch of stuff on the internet. So it helps to legitimize the site in a way, right?
It does. And I hear a lot of sellers that will say, well, I go to Bed Bath & Beyond, or I go to Target or something like that, and I see that they're using canned copy. Yes, but they don't have to depend on the power and the boost that original copy brings them, because they have devoted shoppers, they're huge sites, they have a huge list they can mail to and drive traffic to a site any given time. They're sending out mass mailings in newspapers every Sunday about the sales that they're having, and they're driving traffic in a lot of other ways that a brand new e-commerce site or even a small established site might not be doing. So the dependency on what copy can bring is going to be even more important for medium to smaller sites than it would be for great big giant e-tailers.
Okay, I feel like a lot of people, they look at the larger retailers and say, well, they're doing it this way, so can I. But that's a great point, right?
Yeah, you're not doing everything they're doing. Yeah. So you're cherry picking one little thing and you're not doing the rest. And then when it doesn't work, everybody is dumbfounded. But if you're going to do one of the things that they do, in order to match them, you would have to do everything else they're doing too.
That's a really good way of looking at it, right? Because if you want to be Target, you have to actually, build like hundreds of stores across the country and, have like large physical retail you have to do lots of things, right? And then you can cut the corners in the other places. Yeah, I like that way of looking at it, actually. Because I feel like so many people do that, where they just point and go, well, they do it. And
yeah. And you're not seeing the whole picture. Yep. It's the same way with people that are doing private label on Amazon or something like that. And the only thing that they're doing is operating in the Amazon marketplace with getting positioning on Amazon search engine, running PPC ads through Amazon's sponsored ad program. And they're wondering why the competition is beating them, because the competition is marketing outside of Amazon and pushing traffic that way.
Yep, got it.
So it's pretty much the same thing. You have to have that overall marketing plan in place.
Got it. So I feel like there's 2 different paths we could kind of go down here, and maybe it's useful to do both. Well, 2 different, when I see copy, right? So there's let's use private label as an example, or just folks that have, a very small number of SKUs. Maybe they have less than 10, right? And they're private label, whatever they do, but they basically are producing these products, importing them. They have like small number of SKUs. So there's writing copy for that use case of, we're going to do 10, we're going to do it really well. Then there's the other use case of saying, hey, we're going to distributors, maybe we're drop shipping. Easy example, like automotive parts, where they might quite literally have hundreds of thousands of SKUs. And in that case, copywriting is a whole different conversation, I'm assuming, because they have to do, the same thing someone does with 10 products, but they have to do it at a whole different scale. So it's not a conversation of saying, hey, you should go on as the founder and just write, 500,000 product pages. Like you'll just never get done ever. It'll take you.
No, they have an entire team of writers at that point that do the copy for them. It's a lot of fun to sit there and write about 2,700 different silver bangle bracelets. And they're all just this much different. And you have to make each of the descriptions unique.
Yep. So I guess which path should we start down? The one where you have the low number of SKUs and very custom crafted copy, or is it better to start with high volume SKUs and let's just do this in at scale?
Well, I think high volume sellers probably already have a good bit of help that they need, and they have the resources in place, or they wouldn't have a high volume of SKUs. So why don't we focus on the smaller people who probably need a little bit more help?
I come across a lot of sites, especially with like drop shippers, for example, where they go to a distributor and they just that description, the distributor might quite literally have 200,000 products, and they just go to Shopify, do a bulk import, and they have 200,000 products in a store. So I do see a lot of folks who have to do the same process, but in this like automated fashion. So maybe it helps to even talk about the low SKU version and then how to automate and kind of mechanize that, right? Of saying it works for 10 SKUs. Now you just need to ramp up whatever that process is.
Right. And drop shipping is an entirely different type of it is an entirely different type of business structure. It's still e-com, but drop shippers don't face a lot of the same issues that I might get in trouble for this, but full-blown e-commerce sites that actually have inventory and whatnot, there are differences there. Not so much in how you write the copy, but still, I'm going down a rabbit trail. Want to come with me?
Yeah. We'll stop the rabbit trail for now, because we could go that one for a while. But okay, so let's say you have a handful of products, and you're looking at your copy and saying, what can we do better? Where would you start? What would you do first?
I would get personal. I would make the copy more enticing, even if you start with the canned copy from the distributor or the manufacturer, just to give you some idea, some starting point. You can go in and incorporate lifestyle uses into the copy. You can incorporate things that you know about the shoppers on your site. Bottom line, anything that has anything to do with copywriting should begin with a complete and thorough knowledge of your target audience. And it doesn't have to be, at this point with smaller sellers, so specific that it would be for every single solitary product, but at the very least, have a good knowledge of the people who are visiting your site, the ones that have signed up to get your sale notices via email and things of that nature. What are they looking for from you? But you can incorporate things like that into the copy. If you get information via product reviews that people have left on your site, go in and mine those and look for 2 words, 3-word phrases that you might be able to incorporate into the copy. That's not cheating. I wouldn't put the entire review into the copy, but you are legally allowed to, mine a couple of words here and there, especially if you're seeing reviews where people are repeating this over and over again. I love the fact that blah, blah, blah. Oh, awesome. 3 people said that same thing. So you pull that out and you work it into the copy. But if you make the copy as personal as possible, then it's easier for people to relate to it, and the tone of your copy changes. So maybe as an example, I was at a men's suit website shopping for one for somebody as a gift, and they didn't really wear a suit all that often. So I wasn't looking for one that was extremely high priced. And I would visited a couple of sites, and they were all talking about the fabric and the style and the fit and the cut and all this other stuff like that. Now, if some of those had maybe gone in the direction of, I'm thinking off the top of my head, here's all the information about the suit, the quality, the style, the cut, blah, blah, blah. But this entry-level $99 suit is better made than your boss's $2,500 power suit, and it'll turn just as many heads as you walk down the hallway. So if you need a suit that helps you look as if you've already made it to the corner office, this is how you dress for the position you want to have while on a budget, or something along those lines. Get into the head of the people who would be buying this product. If your site is one that's selling men's clothing and suits is something that are in there, you could do that with all the different price ranges. What are the people that are going to buy a $99 starter suit thinking? What are they looking for? Okay, mid-level suit. Where are they going to wear it? Who is this for? In the $99 suit, you could have another segment for people who buy one suit every 5 years because they need it to wear to weddings and funerals and things like that. And then the rest of the time, they're not required to wear a suit on a job. That's a big portion of people that will buy low dollar suits as well. So when you can get personal with the copy and you have just a little bit of information that connects to your target segments, you can weave that in with some of that canned copy that you got from the manufacturer, unless you are the manufacturer. And it just makes your copy for that product and the whole site seem more homey, more connecting to the people that are shopping with you and like you know them better because you do.
Yeah, like that thought of really coming through and like understanding not just who the buyer is, but like why are they buying this product? And the $100 suit is a great example, right? Because this people that buy a $100 suit have things in common. It's not just they want a cheap suit. It's like you said, they might use it once every 2 years. So they're not going to spend, but people buy a $2,000 suit have a very different use case for that suit. They're going to be most likely, let's say, attorneys, accountants, they have to wear it to work every day. So they're going to be wearing this each week, possibly, for years. So at that point, you want to speak to, hey, you can wear this every day. You can dry clean it, each week. It'll hold up to, thousands of dry cleanings. And it's but the person with the $100 suit isn't going to dry clean it 500 times. Like, that's just not going to happen. You're going to wear it 4 times, probably grow out of it. It just won't fit right. And then you'll throw it away and buy a new one for the next wedding.
Yeah. And I mean, from a women's point of view, I'm not working in a power office. I don't wear suits to work. I don't even own a ladies' suit anymore. I have some blouses and skirts and dresses and things like that I wear to church on Sundays and for special occasions, weddings and whatnot. But I don't even own a suit anymore. So if I had to have a suit for a particular occasion, that's what I would be looking for. I wouldn't want to spend $2,500, but I wouldn't want to show up wherever it was looking like I was wearing a cheap suit.
Yep.
So, getting into that mindset, understanding why are they buying a $99 suit? What's the purpose? And then you can weave that in. And like I said, with the mid-level suits, with the high dollar suits, you've made it. You need to look like you've made it, show the world what you've got, blah, blah, blah. So all of that can be incorporated.
I don't know if this would be the best question, but I am curious because this just happened the other day. I was browsing around. I was shopping for like a replacement part for my dishwasher, right? What do you do so suits is one example where it's you kind of know the person. But how about when you're talking like things that are boring by nature? Like it was a replacement O-ring, really kind of the most boring thing you probably literally buy. Like no one is excited about this. Is there some way of actually even writing a copy for that? Or literally it was just like, O-ring was the description. Is there something you could do there with boring, very simple little things like that?
Well, those commodity types of things like replacement parts for cars, air filters and things of that nature. Well, air filters would be a little bit different. You could talk about the quality of the O-ring and all the specs, but I wouldn't go overboard with something like that because people aren't looking to be convinced. They're looking to know that it will work. If there's a difference in one type of O-ring and another type of O-ring, maybe there's the cheap ones that are going to wear out again in 3 months, but these are made of more resilient rubber or whatever the particular O-ring was made of. You could mention things like that. But most of the time, the shopper is looking to say, okay, here's my make and my model, and here's the thing that wore out, and is it going to fit? So short, sweet, and to the point. If you wanted to differentiate yourself, it would be with quality. If whatever the part was came in different colors that maybe other people didn't have or things of that nature, you could include something like that as well. If you had part warranties, maybe not on a 10-cent O-ring, but, things of that nature, you could put that in as well if it was appropriate. With air filters and whatnot, those are made, the technology behind manufacturing air filters has gotten pretty extreme. So now everybody is talking about, this allows the air to go through this way or that way, and it cuts down on, these types of blockages and allows your carburetor or whatever. You can tell I'm not a mechanic. My husband would know the answers to these questions. But anyway, how it works and why it's better and the way it's made. So things along those lines, oil filters, water filters for your ice maker and your refrigerator, those can get pretty high tech and have a lot of features and benefits. But some things like 10-cent O-rings are just O-rings.
Yeah, and that probably goes back to knowing your audience, right? Because
it does.
You know your audience, you know how they're going to, and it's not just who they are, but how they're going to use this thing, right? You know that no one's going to their car and going, oh, my car's working pretty well. Let's pop out a few O-rings and, just replace them and see what happens. Like, no one does that. But the air filters, that's actually a great example, because the cheap one, whatever, I don't know what a cheap one costs, but let's say the $10 one, that's something, you're going in there and it's just clogged, so you have to run in the auto parts store, you buy the discount one and pop it in and go. But then there's also ones that are like 10x the price. And those are the ones that people are buying because they have one that works perfectly well, but they want something better. Right? So if you're going to invest in copywriting, you kind of have to start, focusing on which products get the most bang for your buck, sort of thing. And that expensive, it's not just because it's expensive, but it's because people are looking at that product in this like desirable way versus like the cheap one or the O-ring. They're just looking because they need it. So it's almost like know who they are and how they're going to use this product. And that also helps you pick where to invest the most time, right? In copywriting.
Yeah. And there are customers out there that won't read anything or will read very little of the copy. They go immediately to the one that has the highest price because in their mind, price equals quality and they want the best of everything. So if there's a good, better, best, if the comparison is on the page and you've got customers also looked at blah, 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 and they're at the $10 page and they see the $12 and the $15 and the $25 and the $40 air filter, they will immediately click for the $40 air filter because it has to be better.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I probably fall victim to that myself. I know I walk in, I was buying air filters the other day for my house, and there's like 5 levels, and I said, well, number 5 that's too extreme. Let's go with number 4. That seems about what, I'm not a number 5 kind of guy. I'm a number 4 guy. So that's what I bought. And it was one of those things I didn't want to read the descriptions. I quite literally picked because there were 5 levels and number 5 just seemed too extreme for me. So let's just go with 4. I don't even know what it is. I don't know why. But yeah, so I'm that person. Which I think if you're short on time, you kind of just use, certain other indicators like that as like analogous to quality. And price is one of the easiest. So,
well, and we won't go down this rabbit trail either, but I will tell you very quickly that pricing strategies they will blow your mind. And there's a way that is proven to set the pricing up like that. And if you do good, better, best, probably 80% of your people are going to do the one in the middle because they don't want to seem cheap, but they don't want to pay the highest price out there. So if you have 4, the 2 in the middle are going to get the most, and it weeds out the more you go. Oh, sorry, I'm running into my microphone over here. But yeah, if you've got 3 prices in there, the one in the middle is going to get the most sales. So there's ways to position that to get people to buy the one that you want them to buy. So pricing strategies are really cool.
What do you think of using stuff like humor in copywriting? Because I feel like that's something that I see some folks do extremely well, but if you do it poorly, it can go like terribly wrong.
It's a big risk, in my opinion. And it would very much depend on the brand, the entire brand that was there. If I had a general e-com site, a Walmart, for example, a Walgreens, something that sold every kind of different thing, under the sun, and it wasn't, all men's clothing or all auto parts or what have you, I don't think I would try to do it. If the overall brand doesn't have an air of humor to it, I don't think I would do it. It's just too risky, in my opinion, that it would come off color or be misunderstood. And then you end up with a lot of people clicking away.
Got it. Yeah, I've kind of always felt that. It's one of those things I want to be funny, but it seems very risky.
Yeah.
So, let's just do the good, better, best, because that seems a little more straight, conservative, right? So
Keeps you up at night. I want to be funny, but am I really funny? Yeah.
it's very hard to be funny on the internet too. And it's even more difficult to be funny over text. I feel like that's like if you have that skill, it's like, 10 out of 10 right there. You can be funny in text, like on the internet. You've done it. So
Without little emojis everywhere to help you.
Exactly. So let's say you're the person out there, the retailer that has 1,000 products. You're not going to do it on your own. You want to kind of hire someone and say, hey, here's the plan, here's the strategy, let's go do it. What kind of guidelines would you put in place to give that person some marching orders? And how would you even set that up so the end result would be what you want? Or is it something you kind of have to really be like, do you need some real like intimate knowledge of the business and the customer, or is it something you can pass it on to someone else and say, here's some guidelines, go make it happen?
Whoever you choose to write your e-com copy, if it was my store, my brand, and I was looking for a copywriter, I would want them to have an in-depth knowledge of the brand itself and the products that are being created. So if you have a line of flip-flops that you sell, I would want the writer to not be as well versed about the company as I am as the owner or the president, but a close second, because that's going to help them write better. And most of the time, there's already a tone or a voice that goes along with the brand strategy. If you have done a brand profile, pass that on to the writer, because that, if it doesn't include these things, it should include the brand story, a list of words and phrases that would be common to your brand, a list of words and phrases that you don't want to use as a brand, how you want to be viewed. All these types of things are going to help the copywriter do his or her job. I would absolutely make sure that whoever you get has e-commerce experience, because there are special considerations depending on the content management system that you're using, how things connect. For example, whatever the page title is when you're setting up the page behind the scenes will appear at the top of the page. So if a copywriter gives you a headline and they're expecting it to be at the top of the page, but you have, women's natural rubber flip-flops as the name of the page, just little tweaks like that a lot of copywriters that don't have e-commerce experience wouldn't understand or know to ask, that can kick you and make you go back and have to redo a lot of things later. Also, writing shorter copy is a lot more complicated than writing longer copy. And on the majority of e-commerce websites, the copy is a good bit shorter. Some of them have really long sales pages, but that's not the commonality. So I would be sure that they're capable of making an emotional connection and getting the points, the features, the benefits of the product across in, 70, 60, 70, 100 words, depending on how much space you have on the e-commerce site. But it's a matter of them being capable of matching your tone so that each page doesn't sound different. That's something else to ask. How many writers are going to be working on this site? Am I going to have the same writer for all the descriptions? If you have multiple writers, from whoever it is that you're using, are they going to sound the same? Because you don't want somebody going to an umbrella page for your garden site and it's sounding one way, and then they're going over to the page for the garden rubber shoes and whatnot, and they're using humor on that page, but none of the other pages were using humor. So it needs to flow. The whole site needs to have cohesiveness.
How do you normalize that, right? Because let's just say this is a big site and you're going to need to do this over the course of weeks and months, right? This isn't, if it's 5 products, you could have one project, one person obviously writes the whole thing, you're done, it's launched, it's over. But let's just say this is a longer term project where, you might need to go through a couple people just out of people are going to transition, or this is going to be something that's ongoing, right? You're going to be, maybe you have 100 products today, but you're going to work with a new set of products tomorrow. So you're going to hire a different copywriter. How do you keep that voice all the way through to make them actually how to make it look like the same person did it when it's really not the case?
Most of the time, if you're getting to that level, you may seriously want to look at hiring your own copywriter. And that's what the majority of the bigger companies do. The ones that have a brand. If it's something like Lowe's, where you're selling paint and you're selling appliances and you're selling paper towels and wood and all these other things, it doesn't matter so much whether the copy is cohesive and flows or not, because it's bits and pieces of everything anyway. But for our flip-flop manufacturer, if you're to the point to where you're doing consistent levels of copy, you may want to compare prices with the copywriting agencies or the freelancers that you're using versus hiring on a junior copywriter, training that man or woman to write for your tone, your voice, whatnot, and then you pay them a set salary and they write all your copy. Oftentimes, once you cross over a particular number of products, and it would depend, it's different for everyone, it may be more economical for you in the long run to go ahead and hire somebody that's on staff.
I guess maybe thinking of the training portion of it too, just because that person, they could leave one day, they can, even if you have someone on staff, right, that could change. So you want you want some sort of like training platform to say, here is our voice. But how do you even tell someone? Do you show them examples? Like,
yeah.
How do you describe that in a document? Like, how do you give someone a training document and say, it's between 60 to 100 words? Do you tell them that,
Mm-hmm.
or is that too?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what goes in. And you would give them the branding profile that I mentioned earlier that has all the information about your brand, and this is what we do and this is what we don't. And, we use humor or we don't use humor. These are the types of things to include. And you do have them go through, look at all of your products that are currently on your website. Ask them to take notes, perhaps. What are you seeing repeated? What strategies are being repeated? Is there a particular formula that you have for the headlines on your page or the title tags, your back end meta tag set? The titles need to be formulated this way. We found that works best. Key phrase, color, size, whatever. The same could happen for the bullets for the copy of a particular page. If you've noticed over time that on your particular website, it works better if you have the colors as the first bullet instead of on the fourth bullet, put that into your document. Anything that is repeatable, anything that needs to be common from product description to product description would need to go into this training document. And then as your freelancer or your new hire continues to evolve and grow, and things within your company continue to evolve and grow, that person would be responsible for keeping this training document updated.
Yeah, I like the idea of a lot of having that training document, because I feel like a lot of people they find someone, okay, you have e-commerce experience, you can write product descriptions, here's 100 products, go. But that thing of, we want to make these 100 look like the other 100, or at least some guideline, right? On, like use humor, like you said, not use humor. What else could you put in that document as kind of some, goalposts and end zones, right? On what are we trying to achieve? Like, what are some ways to actually describe that? What's some other ways of like, this is what we're looking for?
Examples speak volumes. So if you have different types of product description copy that you've used in the past that didn't work very well, and you've replaced it with something that did, create a not this but that section. As you go through and say, we don't use the word, I don't know, if we're doing ladies' shoe site, we don't use the word footwear because nobody searches for that. I'm making this up. We use shoes. We don't say footwear. So things like that could go in there. You could have an example of where someone incorporated one little sentence in a product description page that was lifestyle related or very personal to the segment that would be buying these, ladies dress pumps, stiletto 4-inch heel dress pumps or whatnot, about how comfortable they were. And at the end of the day of, running from meeting to, down the hallway from meeting to meeting, your feet won't be achy, or you won't be, hiding behind your desk so you can kick your shoes off, something very personal like that. You can add those types of examples in as something that a writer would strive to include, and they'll understand it better than if you're just trying to tell them what to do.
Got it. Yeah, I like that idea of having that like living document that every time you learn something, it gets added back to that. And at first, that's probably, I'm assuming, a very tough thing to create, because you're taking, you've been in business for a while, you probably have a lot of things you've learned or the team's learned internally, but that's all in everyone's head. And trying to spend hours of getting that out of people's heads into a document, it's, I think we've all tried to do that before. It's a tough process. But once you do that, all of a sudden, now you have this at least foundation and saying, okay, now going forward, every new thing we learned, even everything we forgot originally, we can just include in this document. It's just one more bullet point. It's one more piece. And then all of a sudden it becomes this like valuable asset to have.
Yes. Well, it's disaster management. It's the same thing as backing up files on all of the computers on a regular basis, or having, a flood plan or something to that nature. The information in your head won't go very far to help you recover from an employee or freelancer. You could have been working with the same freelancer for 2 or 3 or 5 years, and all of a sudden he or she decides that they're going to go get a real job in an office and they don't want to freelance anymore, and poof, they're gone. And freelancers don't usually give you 2 weeks notice. So all of a sudden you're tasked with finding a new writer. So just because you hire someone or not hire someone isn't a guarantee that they're going to be around forever. It is very much worth the time to do that. And I've had to, with different tasks, with adding people to our team, things that I no longer wanted to touch, whether it's the promotion of the company or, the mechanics of promoting, maybe I'm coming up with the ideas and then somebody else will implement the ideas. All of that has to come out of my brain and onto a document somewhere so they can go back and refer to it. Because, even if you have a Skype call and you screen share and you click around, okay, great, they're going to come back to you and go, now, what did you say about adding videos to YouTube? So it needs to be documented somewhere. It is a pain to do it at first, but it's well worth the effort.
Yep. Sounds like it. So I hate the question, but I kind of want to ask. I know people are probably thinking this right about now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no. And when people are starting to do this, what is the price range they're even looking at? And how do they even get something in their head of, okay, here's the range of rates, here's the range of hours it will take. How do you even look at a project and start getting an idea of scope? Because let's say you have 1,000 products. What's the, good, better, best, right? I could hire, what's the low end of that? How long will it take? What's the top end? What do those numbers, or at least rough numbers, even look like?
Absolutely no way to tell. It's like asking how long is a piece of string.
Yeah.
Literally, low end, $1 per product description. You could find places that would do that. I wouldn't recommend that you work with them, but you can find places that will do $1 per product description. High end, it depends on 14 different things. The length of the copy, the scope of the project, how many descriptions you need that are similar to one another, how many are just radically different from one another, the amount of time it's going to take to get up to speed, the learning curve, yada, 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 yada. So high end, without knowing that, there's not a ballpark, but it can get expensive. And that's why I was saying, once you start finding and working with people that you've freelanced with or an agency that you've used before, and you've found the quality and the type of descriptions that you're looking for, find your break even. I would begin to research and see what, on job sites, other companies that are hiring, low junior copywriters, mid-level copywriters, things of that nature. Where's that break even? How many times are you going to freelance before you're going to end up paying the annual cost of an on-staff person anyway? And for a lot of people, you'll never reach that point because of the size of the site and the volume of the descriptions that you're adding on a regular basis. For some upper, medium, and high level e-commerce sites, you might hit it pretty quickly and you're wasting a lot of money. Sometimes if you found a freelancer you absolutely love, if you allow them to work from home and you give them a flexible schedule and a couple other things, they might convert to be your on-staff person. So if you're already working with somebody that you absolutely love, throw that out there if you want to have them all to yourself, and they may agree to it.
Yeah, it also probably just depends on the goals of number of SKUs in general, right? So
Yep.
at Spark Shipping, we've worked with customers with anywhere between, I think the lowest was quite literally one SKU. They were doing like thousands of orders a day over that one SKU, but it was a SKU. To then we've had customers with, I think, over 3.5 million SKUs. So at that point, you're probably not going to do any sort of real, you're not going to do copywriting on millions of SKUs. Like you'll just never, even if you had 10 people on staff, you'll never get to the end ever, right? So
yeah, it's an ugly thing.
Yeah. So any sort of guidelines on just how long to spend on like a per product basis? I mean, and that could obviously vary too, because that guy with the one SKU, right? They could spend weeks on one product. But like any sort of estimates on low end if you're doing the 100-word product page versus.
I don't understand what you're saying. How long to spend?
Yeah, like is this something? Let's say 100 words. Is this taking you an hour? Is this taking people day? Like, what is even like the estimated like throughput for someone?
Well, it depends on what the learning curve is, how complicated the product is. If the one product that they're selling happens to be some centrifuge that's used in a medical laboratory, that's going to have an enormously high learning curve. So to do one product page for that particular centrifuge might take you a couple of weeks at the time you started working on it until the time you finished it, including revisions going back and forth and whatnot. If you're talking about our O-ring, you can knock out. Depends on if you're dealing with freelancers, you also have to worry about what their current workload is and the schedule that they have now. How many clients are booked ahead of you? So, but O-rings are simple. You could knock out dozens of those in a day.
So you always need to come up with the guidelines, engage with a few freelancers, and get their estimates, right? By the sound of it.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah. I feel like is this something as applicable when you talk on the centrifuge to technical products? Because I feel like at certain technical levels, like copywriting is not even a thing. It's just, you're looking at specs, like just lists of how fast does it spin, how many, I don't know, test tubes you can put in it. Like you're just looking at like raw, like numbers. But then for like the suit example, you're actually looking at like details. Does it matter for technical products?
Yes. Well, that would be scientific and medical. But yes, it matters because there's a ton of money at stake for every single solitary sale. And you are trying to convince hospitals and research laboratories and all these other types of places that would be buying this that they need to buy your centrifuge and not all these others. And it comes down to the same questions. What's different or better about this one? Why would I spend money with you instead of, these other 10 companies that have also sent me their information in answer to the request for my bid? So, it all boils down to the same questions, essentially.
Yeah, I guess that's a good one, right? Because on that, you're probably saying, hey, minimize downtime. We have this 1 hour window. If you have a problem, call us. We'll send out a tech and they'll come fix it at your lab. Like this.
Well, but the features could be very different as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. It's more thinking like, how is that person going to be working with this product? Because that's not a product that you like long for, emotional response, but you do want to know, is it going to work? Is it going to be down? Is it going to, if it breaks, who do we call? Like there's a lot of these like little questions on comparing one versus the other.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly.
Very cool. All right. I think that super helpful. Any kind of last thoughts on things people should be doing or should not be doing? I guess is always another one.
I would always make a point, a lot of smaller e-com sites especially don't do a very good job of optimizing the copy that's on their product pages. For that matter, a lot of medium and larger size companies don't do that, especially if they're using the canned copy from a manufacturer and they're just sticking it in the page. There's nothing there that can help Google trigger, oh, this goes here and this should rank here, and let's send these kind of visitors to this particular page. So I would pay attention to the types of keywords that you're researching. I would follow along the buyer intent of the particular keywords so that, for instance, if people are in an information search stage, which is at the beginning of the buying process, then they're probably looking for short tail terms, just one or two words, ladies' shoes, for example, laptop, computer. They're just starting, they're seeing what's out there, they're evaluating, they're looking to even educate themselves on the features and the benefits because they may not know. In addition to copy on a product page, you might do unboxing videos that, as you're opening this up and showing people what's coming in the package and, oh, look, it does this and whatnot. You could do demos of things related to the laptop. And all of that would work. As they move on to the evaluation phase, they've done some research, they've got some that they're considering. You're looking at short and long tail key phrases, as well as comparisons, because now they're trying to evaluate and figure out, all right, I like these 4, which one's better? So comparison videos could be added if your e-com system will handle that. If you have a blog on your e-com site, and you could do review blog posts or comparison blog posts with comparison charts and things to make it simple. And when they're ready to buy, this is usually when they're searching for the longest of the long tail key phrases that can get into 5-6 words long. Things like best whatever, best Toshiba laptop, best price on Toshiba, whatever model number laptop, free shipping, Toshiba model XYZ laptop, things of that nature, because they're reeling it in. They've decided which one they want. Now they're just looking for the best value out there. So while you're incorporating copy, well-written, unique copy, also pay attention to not only the types of search terms that you're including and the volume that they have, but where they fall in the scale of buyer intent. And I think it will help you quite a bit with achieving your goals.
Yeah, I like to do buyer intent actually on, focus on the short tail. Most people don't throw that one out, but have the short tail up top and then understand they will move to the long tail eventually when they go from, buy sandals to buy this type of sandal for this, with this material. So it's as people, even simple products, they do get very specific as they're kind of moving through that journey. So that's a good one right there.
They do. And it goes, if you're just talking about pages too, it goes the same way. So if you're at the home page, that's where your broadest keywords are going to be. As you get to a category page, they get a little bit more narrow. If you have 2 levels, you've gone to laptops, and then you go to 15-inch laptops, and you're working your way down. By the time you get to the actual product page, that's where your long tail and your most focused key phrases would probably need to go.
Yep. Got it. That's a good one. Cool. All right. I think that's super helpful. If people want to find you, kind of learn more about you, where can they do that?
If they want to learn more, they can go to marketingwords.com and click on the blog. You'll find it in the navigation bar, or you can just go to marketingwords.com/blog. Lots of great information there. If you're looking for training for yourself or your staff, go to marketingwords.com/products, and you can see the different types of products that we have.
Awesome. We'll definitely link to that in the show notes. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Thanks. I appreciate it.